to the hip hop. Hip it to the hop of the hip hip, a hop of you don't stop the rocket. You guys' questions are still coming in. I think I'm gonna have to answer questions probably at the end of the video because there's just a lot coming in. But by the time you see this, thanks for asking questions. We got an Einstein, printed a spool, and here we have the dragon tattoo card holder. It's gonna look pretty good in gold, honestly. The alien trash can, just a classic alien trash can. Spools, of course, Euromastics. You can see how long this thing is taking, but it is coming along just fine. This shark got done. Here's another shark. Hammerhead, D20, shark, alien, D20. We're gonna go ahead and get this alien boy ready. Gotta paint the eyes black. We do the eyes on this one as well. Another Einstein. I expect to see a few of these over Christmas season. Okay, let's get this special project all cleaned up. It came out pretty neat. We just got a couple little things here and there. There we go. So I am super hungry, and because it is election day, no, this is not segueing into talking about politics. We are going to go to the most American restaurant possible. Longtime viewers will remember that the shop is next to what I consider the best barbecue joint on the planet. It is Brendan's Barbecue Time. I actually have to forget that Brendan's is there, kind of, because it's just so good, and I would eat there every day if I could. So good. Heck yeah. The European mind cannot comprehend this. They serve it in a black bag because that's how shamefully good it is. So we went all out today. This is called a Ramsay. Oh yeah, brisket and sausage. 2 stuffed smoked peppers. And the best beans you've ever had. And I promise you that's true. And I'm proud to be an American. This was amazing. I feel so American right now. And I don't just mean fat. Earlier today, I needed some copper paint. The reason being, I think somebody ordered a copper D20, which is very unusual, not something you're gonna see very often. And it was free delivery. And it wasn't even, I got it for as much as I would pay if I just went to Lowe's. So I did not know that was a thing you could do. Like, it was same day delivery as well. So I might start doing that more. Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I am getting so many questions on the video that was posted last time. It will be the episode before this, episode 99. People are asking so many questions that I think I'm not going to film that many things today because I'm probably gonna end up with like 100 questions, and I'm gonna try to answer at least like most of them. There are some that are repeats, but it's gonna take a long time to do that. And I only have so much space on my phone, honestly. So I might try to limit what we're filming otherwise, because it's just gonna take forever. Also, some of these questions are like big answer questions, not just like a yes or no. In fact, most of them are. More Segway deliveries. Waiting for the traffic. Round 2. Man, it is insanely nice out. Dodge the branch. Maybe we'll go get the special coffee today. Round 2. I checked the battery and I need to let it charge a bit, but I think we will go get that special coffee in a second here. I thought I would share a thought I had about something. I think this generally is about competence, but especially about competence in something that is creative, or at least kind of creative. Becoming competent at something like that is like a tree. When you first start, everybody starts out at the same spot. You know, let's say this is a sapling, or it's just a sprouted seed or something like that. Everybody kind of starts out at the same place, but as it grows, you know, up, and eventually it starts spreading out a little bit. And by the time it's a full-grown tree, you have stuff going this way, stuff going that way, in every direction. With that as a word picture, what I'm meaning to say is, I think there are a lot of ways to be good at things. And maybe there's, at almost any really creative endeavor or something, there's a million ways to be good. But there's only one way to suck. Like, I first thought of this analogy when I was like learning guitar and recording albums and stuff. It's like, if you think of artists that really suck, I mean, most of the time you just haven't heard of them, because why would anybody listen to them? But when you're starting out playing guitar, everybody makes the same mistakes. You know, it's like, it's kind of hard to hold down the notes. You sort of forget what the chord shapes are. You forget where the notes are on the guitar, stuff like that. It's like, and I taught guitar for 3 or 4 years. So I can tell you, everybody that's starting out kind of does the same stuff. But if we're staying within guitar, think of the most amazing guitarists. It's like, they can have incredibly different styles. If you've ever heard a really good jazz guitarist, it's like, that's totally different than Eddie Van Halen, who is somewhat different than Yngwie Malmsteen, and then Tobin Abazi is extremely different, and Steve Vai is pretty different from all of them. Then you've got the really, really good acoustic guys like Andy McKee or Michael Hedges. That's who I was trying to think of. If you've never listened to Michael Hedges, he died very early in life, and I think he only recorded 3 or 4 albums, but it's just amazing stuff. It's almost like he reinvented acoustic guitar. So it's like, once you've put in the work and used your curiosity and creativity, you can become all kinds of things. In 3D printing, this is especially true. People that are at the bottom all kind of do the same kind of stuff. And we all have to start somewhere. I'm not even hating on it. But it's like, you know, you find a niche that is really unique. And especially if it's something that's kind of difficult to do, or it's just a style that's very hard to replicate, you find some way to be unique. And that's how you actually be successful. So yeah, you can look at it this 2 ways. If you're up here, it's kind of an invitation to be creative and try new things, because you can and you have the freedom to do it. And if you're down here, it's like, well, maybe start spreading out those branches a little bit. And by the time you're up here, you'll be way off in some really interesting tangent. It's also just a motivation to learn the basics and get really good at them, so you can actually focus on the interesting things. You're never going to be like doing interesting stuff if you can't even sort of do the basic stuff right. But there's a real reason to have that discipline, because discipline equals freedom. Anyway, those are my thoughts on that. We're waiting on those big boxes to arrive. Hopefully it'll be today or tomorrow. But here's the unveiling for the pipe. My friend, the mechanic, got pretty busy at work, and it's not going to happen today. But he seems pretty sincere that it's going to happen tomorrow, so fingers crossed. Well, as promised, here are the answers to your questions. And just to put that in context a little bit, this was a lot more full at the beginning of the day. It is extremely late, but I am a man of my word, and I'm going to probably answer just about every question I have here. Victoria's 5386 asks several questions. How did you become so successful after being homeless? Was it after your divorce? You're doing so awesome. Well, let me think about that. How did I become so successful after being homeless? It's a really long story. I learned how to work all of the time and only think about money and earning money. And that's what I did. And I decided that I would rather work all of the time than endure what I had endured for 4 years. Or, I mean, that kind of happened in the middle of it, but basically. It was not after my divorce. I got married while I was homeless, which is not something many people can say. So I got a delivery job, just to explain that slightly more. One of the jobs I got after I got a car, which was nice because then I could sleep in a car. I listened to every audiobook I could get my hands on, most of them free, some of them pirated, I'll be honest, because I didn't have money. And I had a delivery job towards the end. Actually, I had 2 full-time delivery jobs. I'm talking 70 to 80 hours a week. I was working at Jimmy John's during the day because the lunches were the more profitable time, and I was delivering pizza at night because that's the most profitable time at night. And I listened to audiobooks most of the time I was in the car, probably the majority of the time. It's not like I was really keeping track. I listened to music too, but I listened to many audiobooks. They asked a couple questions here. How'd you end up in Nacogdoches? Is the rent there really cheap? Yes. Do you have to fix the floor, or does the landlord? I've decided to address that issue after Christmas because they might have to do some serious construction in here, and I can't have that happening during Christmas. How I ended up in Nacogdoches, somebody I'd played some gigs with lived here, and him and his wife were looking for a place, and I had just gotten divorced, and we both knew each other. Like, the reason I came to Nacogdoches in the first place was to hang out with these people, with my wife. And so she left me, and then I needed a place to live, and they were, so I moved here. And eventually his wife left him. Yes, it's cheap. What's up with the divorce? Man, that is a long question. I met my wife in ministry school, and she much later decided that she was polyamorous, and I was not okay with that. And then we went to about 9 months of marriage counseling, which I spent like $7,000 on, all to just have her not really do the work. And that sucked. It was very hard. I don't think I can pronounce all these names. Maybe I'm just gonna, I'll try. Jaxemfg. Okay. He's asking about the models. A bunch of people asked about this. In the early days, I did what everybody else did, which was just sell public domain stuff. I did get into designing, and I'm a pretty competent modeler. And when the business started taking off, I hired some guys. I had this guy in Pakistan who I actually knew quite well. And he, in his local currency, I could afford to pay him like an amazing salary. But it really wasn't that much for me. And he did some of the models, and I kind of forget why that stopped. I think he got a lot of work from a lot of people and just didn't have time, and plus I was doing more stuff on my own, so we kind of stopped. He's a cool guy though. Now, a lot of times, I wasn't gonna say this, but maybe because I got pretty loosened up like this, I think I'll just tell you guys. I am using AI. Now, I still do a lot of modeling because AI sculpts, it's very early in the technology and it's not that great, but it's one of those things where it gets you about 80% of where you want to go, and then you sculpt the rest. They also asked about the ComGrow T500 because it does have the build volume of all these. I will show you. This is the ComGrow T500. It is a worthless piece of crap. And in case you're tempted to think I didn't try really hard to get this to work, believe me, I did. Never buy this. Oh yeah, another thing worth saying about the, I never did this, but if you're looking for models, you can get you can get in contact with these people on Patreon and stuff, and they'll give you like a license or something. I don't know exactly how it works, but a lot of people do that. Getting models to sell is not hard. But yeah, now we have AI, and if you already know how to sculpt, it's so good. Because you can just generate and generate until you get something that you can work with. And plus it's a unique design, so you know nobody else will have it. All right, that is not a question, just a second. Just scrolling through here. Top 5 things Mark says in his 100 videos, question mark. Charco, yes. Coffee, correct. Klein's, yes. Salvadorian crema, correct. It's more like crema Salvador or something, I don't know. And then they left 5 blank. 5, I will fill that in, Chihuahua. Man, there's so many questions. I'm gonna try to answer all of them. The lone aquarist, hey, that's an aquarium person. I know you are grateful and you have a lot to be grateful for, especially with how you've journeyed through some tough stations in life. My question, how has your past life, I guess it's supposed to be, how has your past life experiences enabled you to find happiness in your present life? Or maybe it doesn't, and life is a day by day endurance run. Well, what you have to imagine, you'd have to imagine sleeping outside for years. And once you can do that and still be a functional person, you can basically do anything. One thing people just do not understand about being homeless is like, there's a lot of bad things about it, but probably the worst thing about it, you don't know what it's like to never get good sleep. Like, you know how you feel bad after you get a night where you get really rough sleep? Imagine doing that for months, and then imagine doing that for like years. You get to a point where you actually can't think. You can't think correctly. And every day that isn't my life is a cakewalk. There's a lot of things that are impactful that you go through and you think, I'll never forget this. But that is something you don't forget. Carl Newman 8605 says, happy 100th episode. Here's my question for you. It's clear to see you're passionate about music and your appreciation spans across many genres. Where did your love for music start, and were there any particular influences? Another thing I could probably do a 20-minute video on. My dad was a composer. He was in the Marine band, and later he was a composer for the Navy, playing for such luminaries as Newt Gingrich, and he actually composed the opening for the Reagan Library, the music for the Reagan Library's opening. But he didn't really teach me anything about music, but music was just kind of around. I started recording music when I was 15, and eventually I started playing all the instruments, and I recorded 12 albums. I've known some semi-famous people. I never quite made it myself, obviously. I don't know why I would say obviously, but yeah, I listened to tons of prog. I listened to a lot of arena rock like Journey, Boston, Styx, Kansas. Styx was my first concert. But I like post-rock. I like a lot of electronic stuff. And I like a lot of stuff that just doesn't fit into any of those categories. I like night tapes a lot lately, which I've said. Man, there's so many. ZJ Florence says, who are your favorite stand-up comedians? I think the hardest I've ever laughed with was David Cross old stuff. I don't even know who that is. It made me think of David Crosby. I don't listen to comedy hardly at all. Most people would assume that's not the case, but I liked Sinbad a lot back in the day. I think some of Steve Harvey's old stuff is pretty good, but I'm not the person to ask. I never think about comedy. Spry R says, 100th episode question. If you had to start your 3D printing business over from scratch, what would you do differently and what would you keep the same? Man, you guys are asking the heavy duty questions. It's a weird thing to say, but I would work harder. I mean, I worked really hard, but I don't know. I don't know what I would do differently, because all the things I did were as a result of like coming across problems and solving them. I don't want to say I would give myself a perfect score. I mean, I was interviewed by Etsy twice, like the Etsy corporation. They interviewed me twice because of the phenomenal growth of the store. They were trying to put together resources to tell people how to run stores. So they were trying to find ideal stores to model their advice after. And so that was pretty big. It's hard to imagine working harder than I was, because I was already used to working 80 hours a week at jobs and stuff. I've worked basically, somebody else somewhere here asked what kinds of jobs I've worked in my life, and basically it's every crappy job you could ever think of. There's only been 2 times where I made above minimum wage, at least with my hourly rate. Sometimes I was earning tips, so that was pretty good, like with the delivery jobs. I would create more products. I mean, I have like 500, but I'm trying to do like 3 or 4 a week, which we forgot to go over the product board. I got 2 this week. I would make more products. JJ Tech Prints, obviously another print channel, asks, where do you see yourself in 5 years, and do you consider large formats your niche? What other things would you like to be known as, or knowledge you'd like to have in 5 years? I appreciate your honest videos. Happy printing. It's a very nice comment. People upvoted that one. Yeah, I guess large printing is my niche. It's because like nobody likes doing this, and it's because it's just so hard. It's really just because I make my own filament, and it's like comparatively dirt cheap. I mean, I think I produce filament cheaper than anybody I've ever heard of. And so with the recycling, that means that the old prints aren't wasted, which is like one of the big problems with large format printing. So I can offer prices that are really competitive. Plus, the printers that actually work aren't made anymore. That's the thing that's crazy about this, is like the reason I can have this business now is because there's all these things that like I somehow became uniquely suited to do. That's not to say you can't start things with smaller printers and stuff, and there's going to be more creative people than me and stuff, people that have all kinds of interesting niches they find. But yeah, that's basically why.